Luther concerning rebaptism, from the article in the British Reformed Journal by Brian Harris. It is true that the Pope persecuted, cursed, and burned those who pressed for reform, but the reformers did not respond as those sectarian spirits who rejected everything in the papal church. This would mean being cast out of Christendom. Luther tells a parable to reinforce his point. Quote, "They remind us of what one brother in the forest of Thuringia did to the other. They were going through the woods with each other. They were going through the woods with each other when they were set up by a bear who threw one of them beneath him. The other brother sought to help and struck at the bear, but missed him, and grievously wounded the brother under the bear. So these enthusiasts." Notice how he calls the Anabaptist enthusiasts. So these enthusiasts. "They ought to come to the aid of Christendom that the Antichrist has in his grip and tortures." Also notice that Luther doesn't fail to call the papacy Antichrist. "They take a severe stand against the Pope, but they miss their mark and murder the more terribly the Christendom under the Pope." End quote. Luther was not a restorationist like the radical Anabaptists. By ignoring church history and God's dealings with the church, they sought to return to the beginning and recommence with a clean slate. That'll be important later. They determined to restore the church from first principles using the book of Acts. They attempted to raise to life a body that had supposedly been left lying in the tomb since apostolic times. Which body was the church? The reformers acted differently, for their intention was reformation, not restoration, hence the term reform. It is true that the church had lain under the shackles of the papacy, but nevertheless, it was the church that was in shackles. The Reformation frees the church from its prison, so that she returns to the central truth of justification by faith alone. Along with the return to this precious doctrine, the church was cleansed of many of the abuses and corruptions that had crept in and obscured the gospel. However, wisdom was required, for while in shackles, the church had throughout its history baptized infants and had given communion to every confessing believer and their children in both kinds. Reformation is the watchword, not restoration. I'm going to repeat that. Reformation is the watchword, not restoration, and certainly not revolution. Objection number 2. If you were baptized as a baby, you cannot remember your baptism, and you cannot even know that you have been baptized. You must make sure of your baptism, for how can you know that you were baptized if you cannot remember the event? Luther's response is dismissive. Quote, "This seems a pretty shaky argument. If I were to reject everything that I have not seen or heard, I would indeed not have much left, either of faith or of love, either of spiritual or temporal things. I might reply, my friends, how do you know that this man is your father, this woman is your mother? You cannot trust people. You must make sure of your own birth. In this manner, all children would be free from obedience to the commandment of God." End quote. Indeed, the whole argument that you need to be sure for yourself leads to radical skepticism. How can you believe anything if you are not willing to accept the testimony of another? Quote, "Indeed, I might claim that the Holy Scriptures meant nothing, Christ means nothing, the Apostle too is never preached. For I have not seen or felt these things. I've only heard them from people. So I won't believe them unless they are reenacted anew and happen and are all done before my eyes. So I am above all a wholly free person, free from the commands of God. That's the way I would have it, if I could," the devil declares. End quote. Luther argues that we should accept our baptism, although we cannot remember it.